His throne, my redemption. Previous episodes are available in playlist, a link is given in the video description. Episode 5. Chapter 63. Here, hold this. I showed you the controls, Quinn, if you think that our necklace will be on your head. Why? You're forcing me to play, and now you want to blame me if you lose. I'm not forcing you, you can choose not to play if you want, but either way, you're playing. That's forcing me, Zade. I said it's not. He forced the controller in her hand and then looked at the screen in front. Please don't forget how to shoot, we have to take off that brat's head. Don't call me a brat, you little girl. I'm going to tape your mouth and then drown you in the shower. Mouth talk, if I win, I want $100, no, 200. Josh wants extra cash too. $200, my ass. I'm giving you 100, 50 for him and 50 for you. That isn't fair, and you know it. Then if I win, what will you give me, Bella? I'll stop setting death traps, I'll even leave your girlfriend alone for good. Alright, $200 it is. Start the game. Isabella smirked, pressing a button. Game on, big brother, game on. Quinn didn't like the sound of that, it sounded as though she already knew the outcome of this match. Her words were filled with too much confidence to not have Quinn worried. With a sigh, she looked down at the controller in her hand. This one to shoot, this one to move, and this one to turn? God, she'd lose, and she knew it. Halfway through the game, Quinn found that she wasn't wrong. Zade played like a pro. In fact, he was the only one carrying their team. As for Quinn, Isabella made it her point of duty to shoot her down every time she revives. She didn't go after Zade, she spitefully went after Quinn. Isabella, you lit. Zade slapped the controller out of her hand and she only giggled, picking it up again. You're cheating and you know it. Why are you always hiding and murdering Quinn? I can't even find you on the map. I'm not cheating, Quinn is a part of the game, I can kill her if I want. You're obviously targeting her because she's new. Stop if you don't want her to regret saving a little Chucky like you that night. I'm not stopping, you better give me my $200 after this, we're leading by 10, there's no way you can catch up. We'll see about that. Josh, she called you a girl, don't let her get away with it. Drop the controller, and you get $200 in full. Josh looked at Isabella, who glared at him. If you Eve before she even finished, Josh dropped the control and slid off the bed to sit on the floor. Sorry, Bella, you're on your own now. You sissy. She hissed, whirling her head around to face her smirking brother. That's not fair, Zade. What's not fair? It's Josh's choice whether to quit or stay, he chose to quit. Zade turned to Quinn. Stay behind me, little red, I'll protect you. Quinn nodded, gripping the controller tighter. This wasn't fair, but it hadn't been fair since the beginning. All right. One by one Zade caught up, Josh wasn't playing, but his player was still there, reviving every time Zade killed him. And it angered Isabella when the game ended and Zade was 1 kill ahead. Throughout the 5-minute game, Quinn only got 3 kills and Zade got 20. Isabella got 15 and Josh got 7. The game probably would have been more fun if it was played fairly, but the siblings had similar personalities. Zade scoffed pridefully, placing the controller on the bed and standing to his feet. Victory goes to those who are strong, resilient, and wise. Better luck next time, you little cheater. I hate you, for real this time. It's life, people love you, and they hate you, and frankly I don't care. He reached for Quinn's hand, pulling her up. Keep your end of the deal. Come on, Quinn. Quinn sighed. Stop, Zade, I really can't with you guys. She turned to Isabella. You were good, better than this big, cute, and heartless beast. I want you to teach me how to play tomorrow. But the deal was to stay. Awa, don't listen to him, you can come see me whenever you want. Quinn gave her a small smile before succumbing to Zade, who pulled her outside in rush. Did you just call me cute again? I didn't, no, you did. I heard you clearly. Quinn laughed. You heard wrong, I called you what you told me to, a heartless beast. You can't fool me, either way, why are you spoiling that child? She's cute. Cute and mannerless. Zade huffed. Either way, she's cute. Don't be friends with her, she sets traps for your mates, she wants to see me dead. She might set traps, but we both know that little girl loves you too much to want you dead. Instead of cursing, why don't you guys just hug each other? Because that's just, I know, it's embarrassing. So let's just leave them be. Leave them be? Wait here a minute. He pushed Isabella's door open again and walked inside. It's time to run on home, Joshie. But we're not done. Isabella persisted. Either way, he's going home. I don't want to see you in his room or find him in yours. Who knows what you guys do behind closed doors? Quinn pinched the bridge of her nose, honestly frustrated. Was that really how a brother should treat a sister? Zade's sleep was disturbed when he felt Quinn slowly and silently freeing herself from his arms. Her breaths were slow and shallow, as if she were afraid he'd hear them. His eyes peeked open, watching as she carefully shuffled off the bed in the darkness that swamped the room and stood at her feet. She was though his hands wanted to trace her body like they did mere hours ago, he kept them to himself, not wanting her to know he was awake. Her clothes scattered on the floor, she bent to pick them up, putting them on, then tiptoeing out the door. He knew where she was going, and she'd told him not to follow her, but he was too curious not to. He'd informed Garth to make it known to the rest of the pack that the training grounds were off limits, for he truly wanted to give her the privacy she needed to grow, but he wanted to see, at least from afar. Her struggles were his too, and he knew she was still struggling. She wasn't over it all yet, the betrayal, the loss of her wolf. He knew her heart was still heavy, dripping blood that was like tears and pumping what felt like pain through her veins. He wanted to make it all better, to stay by her side at all times, but he also wanted to give her what she needed, time to process and accept everything. She needed space, and he'd give it to her, but he still wanted to be there just in case she fell and needed someone to help her up, just in case her eyes filled with tears and she needed somebody to wipe them. Shuffling off the bed, he picked up his clothes, pulling them on and walking out the door as well, following her slowly and cautiously until she stepped onto the training grounds. He stayed a couple meters away from the gate, watching as she stood unmoving in rank 2 for a while, breathing deeply. When she finally made a move, it was to do some simple stretch exercises that positioned her body in ways which made her look glorious. She did some seated twists, various lunges, shoulder stretch and finished off with a cobra stretch. She then walked over to the tire, putting the rubber band that protruded from it around her waist. There were 3 different training routines in rank 2. A routine that strengthens the core, which is what the tire is for. A routine that promotes stability, endurance, and stamina, which is what the numerous punching bags and dummies are for. And a routine that increases speed and heightens the senses, and that's what the automatic arrow thrower is for. It has 5 speeds, and he hoped Quinn would choose none. She wasn't ready for that yet. It was too dark out. To be able to sight the arrows, she at least had to be able to see them. Trained wolves use their sense of hearing to avoid the arrows, but her advanced sense of hearing died along with her wolf. She could do anything else, just not that. Folding his arms across his chest, he examined her as she slowly started to pull the tire 3 times her size across the field. Her leveled breaths heightened, becoming deeper and longer. He could hear her grunts as she strained with the massive and weighty object. It was obvious she couldn't manage, but she did not stop. Halfway towards the end of the lane, her legs started to tremble, her groans becoming louder, fiercer. He wanted to step forward, to help her so bad, but he restrained himself. That was until she fell to her knees with a gasp full of pain. Did she overdo it? Her ankles, did she sprain one of them? His eyes widened as he rushed towards her, lips spreading to yell out her name, but he did not get to. Before he could even pass the gate, Quinn stood to her trembling legs, sobbing as she pushed herself forward. His hands clenched by his side as he stepped back, hiding behind the wooden gate, while he continued to watch. Her face was red and contorted in gruesome pain, and tears streamed down those flawless cheeks, wetting them profusely. Zade turned away. He didn't want to watch this. She was obviously suffering, trying too hard to be who she once was. Did she not know this was dangerous? Her ligaments, what if something went wrong? She had been a beta, so pulling a tire that size might have been nothing to her back then, but now she wasn't a beta anymore, and she was hurting herself trying to be one. God damn it! Turning back towards her when he heard a flopping sound, he realized that she'd pulled the tire over the line and was now sitting breathlessly against it. Her hands trembled as she wiped her eyes, getting rid of every trace of her tears, but she could have not bothered. He'd already seen them. When her face was dry of sweat and tears, she stood to her feet, awkwardly walking over to the one of the punching bags. She didn't even get a proper rest and yet she was taking on another challenge. She was too determined, too stubborn. He'd told her to start from level 1, even if it would hurt her pride. Her first punch was weak, but why not? The punching bags here are more than 500 pounds. She could hurt her wrist if she punched it any hard. Zade's train of thought broke when she punched the bag again, harder this time, with too much power, and she kept the punches coming, not stopping even as sweat drained down her face in gallons. She'd only paused once or twice to flash her hands when they stung, and then she'd get back at it. How could she do this when she said she hadn't trained in a long time? He'd have understood if she still had her wolf, but pulling a huge tire and then punching a 500-pound bag back to back was too impressive for a mere human. But even so, he truly hoped she'd finish after this, and he thought she would, however he was wrong. When she stepped away from the punching bag, she took a couple deep breaths before walking her way over to the arrow thrower. It was then that Zade's muscles tensed and the need to stop her became more prominent than the darkness that caged the land. His teeth clenched as he forced himself not to move. He shouldn't stop her, she shouldn't know he was here. But Zade shook his head. No, he had to give her space. If he went out there and tell her not to, he'd seem controlling. It'd seem as though he didn't want to see her grow. She'd probably be angry at him too. So he stayed behind the gate as she started up the machine, and then stood bravely in front of it as its target. Every arrow that came out punctured Zade's lungs even if she sighted them. The machine was at its lowest speed, but that didn't stop him from worrying. He took a deep breath of relief when she avoided the last one, and then she started to dig the dodged arrows out of the ground, bringing them back to the machine. He thought the torture of watching her torture herself was over, but she started up the machine again and then ran to stand in front of it. The arrows came out swifter than they did the last time, and though he really wanted to stay hidden, he couldn't do it anymore. This was dangerous, and he wouldn't just stand around and watch her hurt herself. Running out into the open, he yelled out her name in anger, and she twisted towards him while sliding against the dirt in aid of sighting one of the shots. She was moving rather slowly compared to the speed of the arrows, and though she tried her best to overcome the sharp weapons that came at her, one grazed her arm and more damage would have been done if he hadn't rushed to turn it off. She looked up at him, while groaning out in pain and hanging onto her bleed arm. Zade ran his hand down his face, hurrying to where she sat. Hell, I told you to train in rank 1, Quinn. Why would you put it at such a high speed? Level 4? Do you wish to die? No, he stooped in front of her. Let me see your arm. She winced as he took her injured arm in his hands. I'm gonna have to take you to the pack doctor. No need, it's not deep, it's just a simple graze. I don't care, you're going. He helped her up and instead of looking at him, she held her head down. How long? How long have you been here? Zade didn't want to tell her, but at the same time, he didn't want to lie to her. Since the beginning. Upon hearing that, Quinn yanked herself out of his arms and finally looked up at him with wide and angry eyes. I told you not to come, why did you? Upon hearing that, Quinn yanked herself out of his arms and finally looked up at him with wide and angry eyes. I told you not to come, why did you? I wasn't going to, I only came because I was worried, and I'm glad I did. Well, I'm not, there are things that I don't want you to see. Like what? Like you putting the speed at 4 when you could barely manage 1. Don't look down on me, Zade, this is exactly why I didn't want you here. I'm not looking down on you, Quinn. Why would I do that? No, Zade, you are. She marched past him, holding tight to her bleeding arm with her head held down. The mere fact that you are here simply means you are looking down on me. That's a lie, Quinn, and you and I both know it. The only reason why I came here is because I was worried you'd overexert yourself, and you did just that. I wasn't wrong for coming. He walked behind her, bearing her injury in mind, while grabbing onto her good arm. Look, I'm sorry I did what I said I wouldn't, but if I didn't come, you'd have gotten injured more severely, you should be thankful. Quinn turned to him, and his blood almost ran cold at the look in her eyes and the tears that streamed down her cheeks. Well, I'm not thankful, Zade, I'm angry. She pulled her arm out of his hand and continued to walk away from him, and Zade stood in his place for a couple of seconds before coming to terms with what he just saw. He looked up at her retreating form, cursing himself mentally before running to catch her up. Quinn, I'm sorry, all right, I didn't know you'd be like this. I was just going to watch. If you hadn't put yourself in such danger, then you wouldn't have even known I was here. And you think that would make me feel better? I told you not to come, I didn't want you to see. Why? I have my reasons. Then tell me, so I can know. I don't have to tell you. She shoved the door to the pack house open, walking in the direction of the west wing. I don't have to tell you anything. You're my mate, Quinn, you shouldn't have to keep anything from me. I'm not your mate. I can't even feel the bond. Zade's steps came to a stop when her words hit him like a brick, and she stopped too, looking back at him with eyes that admitted her regret. What? What did you just say? Quinn bit her lip as she reached for the doorknob in front of her, thankful that she'd made it in front of her room. She twisted it, pushing the door open and escaping him by stepping inside and slamming her door shut behind her. She shouldn't have said that, that wasn't what she wanted to say, why did she say that? She ran her hand down her face as she slid down to the floor, leaning against the door. She could hear his receding steps and honestly, she did not expect him to just leave like that. She thought he'd counter her words, but what exactly could he say to words that surprised him just as much as they surprised her? He was her mate, she knew that, so why would she say that to him? He'd told her how he felt about the whole thing, and the lack of the mate bond between them made her words burn even hotter. Quinn sighed, they must have hurt him, if he told her that, then she'd have been beyond hurt. She overreacted, so what if he watched her while she struggled and bawled on the training grounds? So what if he saw her fail to do things other people could easily do? It made her feel less of a wolf, but then again, she wasn't even a wolf. She was bound to struggle, and he'd seen her struggle before, so why exactly was she so ashamed of it now? Was it because she wanted to earn the mark on her neck? To really prove that he chose her for a reason? Was it because she wanted him to think she was strong? That she could handle anything the world threw at her? But wouldn't that just make her perfect? And who in this world was perfect? Quinn balled her hands as she forced her sore body to stand. She turned to face the door, reluctant at first, but somehow she found the courage to open it. She looked down the hall as she stepped outside and then slowly walked towards the room next to hers. She knocked softly, leaning her forehead against the thick board. Zade. She got no response, and that had the courage she'd built slowly trickling. Zade, can we talk? You've already said enough, Quinn, it's late, get some sleep. You're obviously tired too. Quinn swallowed, shaking her head desperately. No, please Zade. I didn't mean it. I was angry, and I said that, and now, if you said it in anger, then you must have wanted to say it for a while now. It's how you feel, it's nothing for you to be sorry about. Let me in, please. Go to bed, Quinn. Quinn knocked again, blinking her eyes rapidly when she felt them getting heavy. Zade, I'm sorry. The break in her voice sounded so pitiful. Zade, please. She eased away from the door when she heard his approaching footsteps from the inside. Her heartbeat skyrocketed, more so when the door tilted open. What are you sorry about, Quinn? Quinn pushed past the door, falling against his chest where she cried. I'm sorry I overreacted, I'm sorry for saying something like that. I'm sorry I overreacted, I'm sorry for saying something like that. You didn't overreact, I'm always the one pushing my nose where it doesn't belong. I deserved it. Don't say that. Then what else do you expect me to say? Have I not done enough, Quinn? My mark is on your neck and yet you still refuse to acknowledge me as your mate. What else must I do? Nothing, Quinn breathed. I know you're my mate, I know that, I'm sure of it. Then why is it that those words of disownment are always what you use to hurt me? I know, and I'm sorry. Her hand reached for his that was clenched by his side, hanging onto it. I didn't mean it, it was the first thing that came to my mind, the only words I knew would hurt you. So you wanted to hurt me? Why, Quinn? I've never thought of willingly hurting you once. Those words made me feel like this love is one-sided. I begged you, Quinn, on more than one occasions, I've begged you to love me, but you know what? It's fine if you can't. He pulled back, his anger was evident, and yet he was gentle as he unwrapped her hand from around his. I'm going to bed, go get some rest. I do. Quinn looked down the hall, avoiding his eyes and instead watching as one of the pack members swiftly approached. I do love you. I never lied when I said I did. I know you're mad at me, and you should be, but Zade, I go to bed, Quinn. At least listen to me first, or if you must sleep, let me sleep beside you. That would be nice, but I'd really prefer to sleep alone tonight. Zade, use Alpha, Luna, the pack member stopped behind her, bowing his head to both her and Zade. Do you have a moment, Zade? I do. Zade looked down at Quinn, gesturing to her room beside his. I'm heading to my office, get some sleep, Quinn, I'm begging you. Quinn reluctantly nodded, swiping her red hair back. I'll stay in your room until you get back. Is that okay? It's all right. Zade shifted out of the doorway, giving her enough space to walk by him. I probably won't be back until the sun is out, I'll see you later. He glanced back at her once more before stepping past the door and closing it behind him. He then followed Garth down the hall. What is it? Dante and Frederick are back, they are waiting in your office. What of the orders I gave you? I was wondering when you'd ask. Since I came back a day ago, it is done. It slipped my mind, either way did you get word about anything else? I know Alpha Jake has heard my words, he's preparing his move, perfecting it. You did as good as I expected. They descended the pack house. What was your disguise? There is this elder along the street, I heard he's gone mad, but his prophecies are accurate. I paid him to regard me as his son, I used my disguise as his son and his influence to make the rumors more believable, I didn't give out a name, I described her appearance, red hair and brown eyes, I also gave them her location. Where is the elder now? Locked up. I planned to kill him after I was done, but he's good, better than the elders we have here. He told me I'd have a son next year and Sophia is pregnant. All right, good job. Keep him locked up until all of this over. We can't have them questioning him until he admits his prophecy was a lie. You may go, take the weekend off. Garth nodded, walking in the opposite direction before abruptly stopping. I forgot. Dante and Frederick brought someone back with them. A guest was what they called him, somebody you'd definitely want to see. Zade clenched his jaw when right then, the swish of wind that passed had the scent of the intruder penetrating his senses. He knew who this person was. Derek. Zade waved at Garth before rushing off to his office, getting there in the blink of an eye. He slammed the door open, peering inside at the man who was staring up at him with nonchalant obsidian eyes. He seemed disheveled even though he was sitting in one of Zade's office chairs. His eyes were clear, but his face was riddled with different emotions. He quickly stood up between Frederick and Dante. Son. Zade looked from Dante to Frederick and then at him. Derek, what are you doing here? How is she? My poor daughter, how is she doing? Zade didn't answer him, instead he looked away, fixating his eyes on Dante. Explain this. He insisted on following us. He claimed he had to see his daughter. We tried to get him to stay back, but he was adamant. It wasn't like we could kill him, you gave her strict orders not to, and he's our Luna's father. I'll deal with you later. Zade's eyes narrowed at Dante who held his head, before looking back at Derek. You have to leave now. I'm not going to kill you since you're the only family she has left, but you are not welcomed here. She has finally started her healing process and nobody will ruin it, not even you. Please son, let me see my child once. That girl, she's been through so much, at least let me see her becoming 22. It's her birthday, and yet I'm the one who continuously has to remind her. However, tomorrow or rather today since it is past 12 o'clock am is not only her birthday, it is also the anniversary of her mother's death, her real mother. What? Derek looked away. Yes, her mother died after giving birth to her. Then Catherine. It might not be biologically, but Catherine is her mother too. Zade's face twisted into confusion. I don't understand, explain. It's a rare case since twins aren't necessarily popular, but Catherine had a twin, Katrina, and they were both my mates. Although they were twins and looked almost exactly alike, they were totally different when it came to rank and personality. As you know, Catherine is an Omega, but Katrina was like me, a Beta. Back then, Catherine had been sweet and innocent, she was more dependent than a baby, my attention was like air to her. While Katrina, she was stern, aloof and fiery, but she was filled to the brim with emotion. We fought alongside each other for the pack and went on missions together, and since Catherine didn't have the capability to join, jealousy palmed her tight. She often admitted that I loved Katrina more, that I put her twin sister above her, but that was never the case. He sighed, the breath full of frustration. However, it got worse when Katrina got pregnant, and she wasn't. The arguments were only seconds apart, and months later, she demanded that I choose. I told her I couldn't, I made it known that I loved them both, equally, but Catherine walked out saying that I'd already made my choice. Months later, she returned after I apologized and told her I'd make it right, but it was at that time that Katrina started getting sick. Back then we weren't sure what nephrone was, the doctors only knew it came from a plant. But apparently it had been what slowly took Katrina's wolf away from her. She'd been just like Quinn, but a lot more broken. She barely ate, barely slept, it was as if she'd also lost herself. Quinn came 2 months early, and Katrina didn't survive. All that's left of her is that girl with the same green eyes her mother had. It's sad and unfortunate that now Quinn is going through the same thing Katrina did, all because of my lack of judgment. So, you're saying, it is Catherine who did that to her own sister? Derek nodded heartbrokenly. Yes, Quinn never got to see her mother and her mother never had the chance to hold her. It is sad to be born on the day your mother died, so I never told her. But, he chuckled sadly. It is a coincidence that Quinn never really liked celebrating her birthday? She often forgets the very day of her birth and I have to remind her. There is never a year when she ever remembers it on her own, and when Catherine turned against her, it became worse. Zade ran his hand through his hair, gesturing to Frederick, who'd started playing what Zade knew were games on his phone. That's enough, take him to the central pack house and give him a room. Quinn deserves to hear this story too, but not from me. Frederick locked his phone with a nod, grabbing Derek's arm and pulling him towards the door. Before the door closed behind them, Derek thanked him gratefully, and Zade didn't respond. He knew Quinn would be angry about this, and though he was mad at her at the moment, he didn't want to see her hurt again. But she needed to know the truth. Anybody would want to know the truth. Sighing, he turned to Dante. Give me an update. Both missions were a success. We burnt the farm down to the ground. Nobody was killed. We used a dead crow to signify the end of the alliance, and also made sure the neighboring packs knew their place. Nobody will help him, no matter how hard he begs, they fear you. All right, thanks. Quinn doesn't know about this, keep it away from her at all cost, and you escaped my wrath by luck. I was going to slam your head into a rock when I saw him here. That's what you say all the time. It has never happened though, my luck must be immeasurable. Perhaps so, either way, bring your controller over tomorrow, we're playing because Bella has been acting up again. Tell Frederick to bring his brother. Not again, why are you always trying to put Bella in her place? Because that's where she should be, and she should stay there. Dante chuckled. A cruel big brother indeed. Anyway, Alpha Jake will make his move soon. I give him 2 days, probably less, but not more. That fool hates your guts so much that he'd murder himself just to hurt you. I hate him too, however, he doesn't live on my mind like I live on his. He wants his position back, but for as long as I live, he will stay beneath me. Yes, he is no match for a man who is even cruel to his own sister. Shut up, you fool! Dante laughed. I'm happy you found your mate, her circumstances might not be the best, but she seems cool. That doesn't sound like something that would come out of your mouth. You're right, I'll be on my way, Rachel will be throwing stones at my head if I stay out any later. Aren't you going back as well? Zade shook his head. No, not tonight. Quinn and I'll just sleep here. What? Had a fight? That's surprising. Yeah, it is. All right, I will not tarry any longer. I'm leaving, get your figured out soon. Dante walked to the door, saluting as he stepped through it. Zade nodded as he left, leaning against his desk. He wanted to see her, but he knew if he did, he'd cave too soon. Quinn needed to know her words and actions could hurt him too. He needed her to see that he wasn't just a big emotionless wall that she could throw anything at, and it just bounced off. I'm not your mate. I can't even feel the bond. How could she say that and not expect him to falter? He was aware that the bond between them was non-existent. His wolf kept reaching out, but there was nothing for him to hang on to, but either way, there was love between them, and he wanted it to be enough to keep them together. Zade didn't come home. No matter how long Quinn tried to keep her droopy eyes open, he did not walk through that door. Had her words angered him that much? She continuously wondered until eventually, those eyes fluttered shut, only opening again when the daylight glistened bright through the thin curtains, illuminating her flawless tan skin and the rest of the room. The first thing she did was look around for any signs of him, and when she found none, her heart dropped and the little hope she had of finding his arms wrapped around her vanished as though it was not there. With a sigh, she sat up, flinging the sheets aside. Last night, he hadn't given her enough time to explain. He kept pushing her away, something only she'd done to him. But now that it was reciprocated, she could actually imagine how he'd felt back then in her stage of deliberate and harsh reluctance, at least that was if he felt the same way she did now. Dejected and pathetic. Shuffling off the bed, Quinn pushed her feet into the blue slippers she'd worn here, walking out of his room. She went into hers, taking a long shower that was filled with oversensitive thoughts and solutions that could patch up the hole she'd created in her relationship. She had tried apologizing, but it seemed she hadn't been sincere enough. What else could she do? Quinn caught her hair in a loose bun, then proceeded to brush her teeth while looking in the mirror etched against the wall. Perhaps she needed to try apologizing again. Last night his wound had been fresh, but the healing process must have now begun. With that being the only thought in mind, Quinn rinsed her mouth and washed her face before stepping out of the bathroom. She got dressed, putting on a pair of jeans and a black blouse that hung just above her navel. She then went on her way, hoping she'd find Zade in his office. When she got there, she rung the knob, quickly realizing that the door was locked. Her first conclusion was that he wasn't there, but still, she resorted to knocking to be certain. She knocked twice and, after which, she heard movements on the inside that made her suddenly feel uneasy. Her heart started to palpitate as the door opened and in just a second, she was looking into Zade's deep, dark hazel eyes. Quinn. He sounded as though he'd just woken up, voice croaky and low. He must have slept here, just to avoid her. Quinn swallowed as she looked away. You didn't come back last night, so I just came to check up on you. He opened the door wider, and she stepped inside awkwardly. This felt, him being angry at her just felt new and alarming. She wasn't used to this, and she didn't want to get used to it. She felt guilty too, after all, she was the very cause of this. Did you wait up for me? Quinn shook her head, feeling too disheartened to tell the truth. I didn't, I fell asleep too. I'm glad you got some rest. He took a seat behind his desk, and when Quinn glanced over at him, he wasn't staring at her, the walls seemed to hold more interest to him than her face did. I'll ask Larna to bring you breakfast. That's fine, I'm not hungry. Quinn cleared her throat. Zade, about last night, she pathetically trailed off. What about it? If this is about what you said, you can go back to your room and wait for Larna. I'm over it, I don't care about it anymore. Quinn's felt as his words wrapped around her heart, squeezing it. How could he not care? She bit her lip. Why not? Why don't you care? You already apologized, Quinn. I forgive you. Then why was it that she felt like he didn't? Why was the air around him so heavy? Why did he seem so uninterested in her? Quinn clenched her jaws, nodding to his words. Okay. Anything else? She shook her head, and he finally looked towards her. All right then, I have some work I need to finish. Quinn knew what that meant. He was telling her to leave without actually telling her to leave, and her pride would not allow her to stay. She twisted on her feet, trying to calmly walk out, but regardless of her attempt, her steps were frustrated stomps that showcased her true feelings. Zade watched her with squinted eyes until the door finally closed behind her. It was then he breathed out, for it felt as though he'd been holding his breath. He looked down at his hands clamped together in his lap, both restricting each other from just grabbing her and holding her. God damn it, today was her birthday, and he couldn't even bring himself to tell her happy birthday. He sighed, finally unclasping his hands and running them through his hair. Everything was set for tonight though. He only hoped he could keep his cool until then. Before uttering the words, he needed to get her a gift. He planned a surprise for her, and though he hated it, his family and just one of hers was included. He'd have made it bigger if she was comfortable around the whole pack, but until then, it'd be just his beta and gamma, his parents and his sibling, along with her father. As much as she made him angry last night, today was a different day, an important one. It was both the day she was born and the day her mother died. He wondered though, how would she react after finally hearing the truth from her father tonight? Quinn plucked the fork out of the sausage and glared down into her half-eaten food. Should she go back to his office? And then what? Angrily storm out again? She pushed the plate aside and swallowed what was in her mouth. She was embarrassed. She went there to apologize and ended up doing nothing at all. But did he even allow her to? A groan of frustration left her lips. She suddenly felt bored and alone. Ever since they crossed the borders, he'd tried his best to prevent that from happening, and now he was making her feel this way on purpose. He knew he was the only one she could freely talk to here, the only person she truly trusted. But then again, despite knowing that, why had she still gone ahead and coughed those foolish words out like they were phlegm in her throat? Quinn tapped her feet against the floor as she looked up at the roof, an action showcasing how anxious and impatient she was because of this situation. What must she do? She didn't know, but she had to do something, anything. Standing to her feet, she walked to the door, opening it up, but just as she did, her eyes were greeted by Isabella, who stood outside with a hand up as though she were just about to knock. Quinn squinted down at her before smiling. Bella. Hi, were you going somewhere? To your brother's office. I thought I'd go there since I have nothing to do. He isn't there, he told me to tell you that. Wanna keep me company instead? The other guys are in my room, we're gonna play, wanna join my team? Quinn wanted to say no, considering the fact that she still wasn't fond of the game or the controls associated with it, but she nodded her head instead. Sure, I'll probably only contribute to you losing though. I'm aware of that, big sis, especially since Frederick will also be playing. That goof uses AG3, I hate him. What's AG3? A sniper weapon, mostly used at a far range. I believe it's best you try it. For a more upgraded armor, I'll log you in on my old account. I have a lot of upgraded weapons too. You truly love this game, don't you? Isabella shrugged. Well, I guess it's fun. Yeah, I suppose so. Quinn gave her a faux grin as she followed her out. So I should use the G3 you say? Since it's a far-range weapon, must I stay somewhere in the area which we are spawned? Yes, do that. You have to find a good hiding spot. A place that conceals your position but reveals there's enough for you to have a clean shot. Quinn nodded, trying her best to take all of this in. Okay, I can do that. Isabella looked back at her as she stopped in front of her room door, which was flooded with noise. You'd better do it, and do it properly. You're the defender, watch my back while I advance over to their side. Okay. Quinn felt threatened. I'll try. Isabella reached for the knob, pushing her door open and walking inside. Quinn followed her, closing the door and then turning to look at the group of men lined out across the now silent room. The first person she saw was Zade's father, Nicholas. He stood in front of everyone else, wearing loose-fit jeans and a plain white shirt. The next people she recognized were the Beta and the Gamma Zade had introduced her to in the past. If she remembered correctly, then one was Frederick and the other was Dante. Quinn's eyes drifted to the figure between them, Josh. He was a little shorter than they were and not as masculine, but for his age, he had more than enough height and muscles. The last male occupant in the room stood by the dresser, idly running his fingers along the mirror instead of casting his hazel eyes at her, Zade. Quinn held in her sigh as she looked away, waving at everyone. Hello. The group of men smiled at her, all issuing her a greeting, all except Zade who was still playing with the dresser mirror. His Beta noticed, turning towards him with a chuckle while bumping the Gamma's shoulder. Rick, look at the fool pretending as though he weren't the one who gave Bella $100 to bring her here. Zade finally looked away from the mirror, glowering at him. I thought I told you to keep your mouth shut, Dante. I will. I won't blow your cover. You blew it already, you stupid. He hissed, glancing at Quinn who scratched her arm nervously. Are you guys going to play or not? Yes, Frederick answered. But not here. There are too many of us, Isabella doesn't have enough utensils, let's take this to the entertainment room, don't even think about it. There is no entertainment room here. I closed it down a year ago. Reopen it, today's a special day, isn't it? Let's make the most of it. Zade looked at his Gamma indecisively and then shook his head. There was a reason why it had to be closed down, everybody was slacking off, especially you, Frederick. Don't use today as an excuse, we both know you want it reopened for your own benefit. That's true, but either way, it's one day, Zade. Why can't I slack off for just one day? I mean, Dante and I finished our mission perfectly, consider it to be a reward. Everyone looked at Zade hopefully, Isabella whispering please consecutively, giving him no room to refuse. He sighed in defeat, putting up one finger. One day, Frederick, and it's today. Isabella's cheer had Quinn wondering just how fun this so-called entertainment room could be. On the tour, Zade said nothing about it. What was inside? Before she could ask, Isabella's door opened again and Marcia walked in. Sorry for being late, the game hasn't started yet, has it? No, Mom, Isabella rolled her eyes. But why did you have to put on a pretty dress and makeup just to play a game? Oh come on, sweetheart, I have to look pretty even if I'm going to lose. The entertainment room was in the heart of the pack house's main building. Quinn hadn't been there, since the East Wing was a separate building adjoined to the pack house. Now though she got to see the inside, even if it was just the first floor. The furniture were mostly colored in a dark shade of brown that made them shine when polished, and every turn of the way, people passed by, extending their greetings. But when they got to what they called the entertainment room, only one person stood by the door, a woman, a beautiful woman with short, black hair and pretty brown eyes. She was wearing a full suit of black blouse, black shorts, black stocking, black shoes, and even black eyeliner. Dante walked in front, embracing her in his strong arms. Rachel baby, I'm sorry I had to leave so early this morning. The woman Quinn now knew as Rachel rolled her eyes and pushed him aside. Don't touch me, Dante. If you lay another finger on me, then the floor will be yours again tonight. Dante stepped back, holding his arms up in defeat. All right, I'll keep my hands to myself. Rachel nodded. Good, she then turned to Zade, bowing her head. I brought the keys, Alpha. Thanks, Rachel, give them here. Zade stretched out his hand and she laid a key in his palm, before moving from in front of the door. With the key he was given, he penetrated the lock, looking back at his family with a small smile and then shoving the door open. Inside was not as she expected it to be, it all looked exceptionally pretty but even more so dirty. The walls were filled with cobwebs and dirt plagued the many computers that were lined out on the desk and the beautifully tiled floor. The look of excitement that had been on Isabella's face turned into a look of horror so quickly. Her mouth dropped and she turned to Zade. Jesus Christ, Zade! Did you not have somebody clean it at least once per month? No, never thought of that, ever. Isabella walked inside, running her hand along one of the computers. Do they even work now? How could you abandon this place that used to be my sanctuary? It wasn't just your sanctuary, it was Frederick's and some of our best warriors too. They used to live here. If this room had still been open, then the pack wouldn't have achieved nearly as much as it did. Nobody would train, they'd rather be training to beat each other in a game than in real life. Well, you still could have had somebody clean it. Should have appointed you, I bet you wouldn't have wanted to do it. That's true, but, she groaned. What will we do now? It's simple, family time is cancelled until, you know, forever. Why, Marcia looked at her son. The room is in desperate need of a broom, a mop, some rags and some water. Why don't we all just clean it together? Mom, come on, we don't have time for that. We do, it's still family time if we're together, right? She grabbed Quinn's hand. Can you do something for me, sweetie? Quinn nodded slowly. I guess can. Splendid. I want you and Zade to get the soap and the bleach. Me and Zade. Quinn glanced at Zade, who was glaring daggers at his mother. I swear to God, you're the most annoying person I've come across, Mom. Why must I get bleach and soap? I'm not cleaning this disaster. We'll see about that. You might be the Alpha King, but you're still my son. Tell him, Nick. Nicholas chuckled. This argument doesn't concern me, but son, women always have their way, and with your mother it's no exception. Do as she say, don't make me suffer for it later. It's true, man. Dante chimed in. Women always win, so get the soap and get the bleach. You better shut your mouth too. Why do I get on everybody's bad side? Even my mates. Can't you people treat me better? No, you deserve it all. Why don't you get the soap and the bleach? Zade asked him. Marcia shook her head. No, his job is to get the bucket and the mop. Accompany him, Frederick. As for Joshua and Isabella, get rags and some gloves. Nicholas, get the dustpan, the duster, and the broom. Rachel and I awaits you all. That's as unfair as it can get, Marcia, and you know it. Why does everybody else have company and I don't? Marcia shrugged. Just get to work, Nick. You too, Zade. Zade hissed at her as he walked out of the room, and Quinn sighed as she followed him. Wait up. He didn't respond, but he slowed down, staring straight ahead without glancing at her, who now walked beside him. I'm sorry about Marcia, I really didn't want to spoil today. Why not? It's nothing. The words were final, his cold voice telling her not to ask again. But if not that, then Quinn wanted to know something else. Are you sure you've forgiven me for what I said last night, Zade? I have, I told you. Then why? Quinn looked down at her feet as they moved along with his. Why does it feel like there's still a huge distance between us? It feels like you barely even want to see me. I get it, what I said was something that should have never came out of my mouth, but I am sorry. I didn't mean it. If I didn't think of you as my mate, I wouldn't have allowed you to mark me. I know that, Quinn. Then why? Quinn stopped in her tracks, and Zade stopped to look back at her. Why have you been like this? Quinn, Zade sighed, stepping towards her. Marcia, that woman was trouble. He'd been trying his god best to stay in character, and now, that woman had done what was never planned for today. He felt miserable. Now that he was alone with Quinn, it felt suffocating to not be all over her, and even more so when she was like this. His hands trembled as he reached forward, grabbing onto her shoulders. Look at me, Quinn. Quinn looked up from the floor, her green eyes so vulnerable and sad. What? I forgave you, stop overthinking it. Kiss me then, and if that's too much, then hug me. Quinn, his right hand drifted up from her shoulder to settle beneath her chin. How could he refuse? A kiss, a hug, he'd be down even if she told him she wanted to make love. He licked his lips as he leaned down, resting his forehead against hers. However, just before he could ultimately falter, Dante and Frederick burst through the door in a fit of laughter, and following them were Isabella, Joshua, and Nicholas. He quickly pulled away from her, pocketing his hands that held onto her. The soap, the bleach, and then he headed off as though he hadn't been seconds away from kissing her. Quinn's fingers ran along her lips as she followed him. She didn't understand, he was really going to kiss her, so does that mean she truly was forgiven? If so, why had he been acting so distant then? As soon as everybody returned with the cleaning utensils, Marcia started giving out orders again, orders that weren't at all fair. The men were the ones who were supposed to clean, since according to her, all the women were exhausted from having to deal with them on a daily basis. She proclaimed the time they'd spend to clean as hours of freedom and respite for the ladies, and though Quinn didn't completely agree, she was forced to sit and watch as Zade, Nicholas, Dante, Frederick, and Joshua coughed and sneezed when the dust they kept trying to clean slithered up their nostrils. This all looked so new to them, they barely knew how to use a broom, much less a duster. It was so bad that after a while, even Marcia had to join in to help her husband, and Quinn, well, she pitied Zade too. So, of course she climbed atop of the desk he stood on, pulling the duster out of his hand. "You're so bad at this, let me help." He looked back at her, frowning. "You don't have to, I'm fine." "You sure don't look like it." "Yeah man, speak the truth." "You are not fine, none of us are, be glad your mate offered to help, mine is still sitting, she's probably mentally smiling while I suffer." Zade glanced over at Dante but did nothing except to sigh in response. "All right, the webs are gone." Instead of this, he regained possession of the duster, gesturing to the row of desks in the lane he chose to clean. "Help me clean them off." Quinn nodded, climbing off the desk when he did. After which, he offered her a cleaning cloth, soaked in soapy bleach water, and they started to clean together. Their glances at each other were endless, but it was silent as though both were scared to speak, but the silence was comfortable, especially when he started to draw nearer, making sure his skin touched hers even if the contact was slight. That was the only communication she needed, the fact that he still aspired to be close, the fact that he kept glancing her way proved that his words were right, he'd forgiven her, he still wanted her and that made her happy. Everybody else around them was tuned out, that was until Dante started to complain about his mate not helping him again. However, despite his complaints, she did not even glance his way, instead she reddened the lipstick on her lips with a small pocket mirror in hand. "Why must I dirty my clothes for the likes of you? I only came here because Marcia invited me out for shopping, that too is the reason why she had advised us not to help you guys. But Marcia and Quinn are helping their mates. That doesn't mean I should help you. Come on, Rachel, I already told you that I'm sorry about last night. It wasn't even my fault, it was Zade's. How sad, especially since I don't care. Rachel baby, please," and it took a series more of begging without shame for Rachel to finally give him a helping hand, leaving Isabella as the only person who didn't do anything to the very end. But as soon as the place was spotless, she was the first to test one of the computers, confirming that they actually still worked. It was then declared that the women would go up against the men, and to even up the team, Larna was called and asked if she wanted to join. 3 games were played, but as expected, the men won them all. They were merciless. Quinn tried using the gun Isabella had recommended, but it didn't matter where she hid, Frederick would snipe her out and take her down with a headshot. At one point, she just wanted to give up. The game wasn't fun if no matter what she did or what weapon she used, she still couldn't win. She liked victory, in everything she did, she wanted to win, and this game only managed to hurt her pride 3 times in a row. Sighing, she stood up from in front of the computer, turning to Marcia. "I'll have to shower again, my clothes are all messy because of the dirt." "Mine too, so I'll be doing the same. Rachel and I plan to go shopping after this, and we wanted you to come. We haven't had any girl time since you came here, are you up for it?" Quinn looked at Rachel and then back at Marcia. "I mean, if it's all right with you guys, I'd love to. If we were against it, we wouldn't have asked. You're too nice for your own good, Quinn." A faint smile slipped across Quinn's lips. She didn't think she was nice. If she were, then so many people would not have betrayed her all at once. "Thanks for inviting me." "No need." Marcia stood up, looking down at her clothes with a frustrated breath. "I came already dressed and ready to go out, but even my makeup is ruined now. It's sad actually, we cleaned up to play and couldn't even win 1 game." "Well, Mom, you're the main reason why we didn't win, so stop complaining." "Why? What did I do?" "The fact that you got 17 deaths and 1 kill is enough to justify my words." "Are you really going to blame an old woman?" She threw her arm over her daughter's shoulder, leading her towards the exit. "I tried my best until the very end, and only ended up with 1 kill. You are growing up just like your brother, so mean." It was true, they were very much alike. Quinn shook her head as she held in a chuckle, walking out of the room as well. Her steps were slow and yet steady, but they ceased when someone grabbed her injured arm, pulling her back. She winced, and that's when they let go, murmuring under their breath, "I forgot about your injury." Quinn turned to the familiar person. This voice and the warmth of this touch was one she knew so well. "Zade, what are you doing? What's wrong?" "It's nothing, just came to give you what you'd asked me for." "What's that?" This, after that unclear answer, he'd planted his lips against hers, a quick kiss that had Quinn puckering her lips for more. He didn't give that to her, instead he smiled. "Have fun on your shopping trip, today is all about you, Mom has my card, everything's on me. So pick up whatever you want." Quinn nodded, grabbing onto his shirt before he could walk back into the entertainment room. "One more time, kiss me one more time," and he did not refuse. Zade ran his hand down his face as he walked out of the pack house with his beta and gamma behind him. He hoped the day wasn't irrevocably spoiled. He'd begged his mother. He might have not gotten down on his knees, but he'd begged that woman to let this day pass without trouble. He'd informed his family, all of them, that it was Quinn's birthday, and his only wish was for her to completely enjoy it. He wanted her to feel a part of this pack, to feel like she really was family. He wanted her to feel accepted. That way, she'd know that she wasn't alone, that there were other people except for him who cared about her. So he'd sat down with his mother and his father, with his sister and his illiterate friends, and begged them to help him. They'd planned this day thoroughly, with the great moment of togetherness that Marcia had already spoiled, then shopping for anything Quinn might subconsciously need, that along with any other outings that would stall time for him to prepare the surprise. He told them not to be back until it was past 6 p.m. and he hoped Marcia, Rachel, and Isabella wouldn't spoil this round. But if they did, it was his job to make at least the last part of her day enjoyable. Each person was supposed to get her a gift for the surprise tonight, and he wanted his to be the most meaningful. He didn't know why, but this day had bestowed so much pressure upon him. He wasn't sure how it would go. Would she be glad that her father was here? Or would she hate it? Would the party also go as he expected it to? Or would it fail drastically? It made him nervous, but his excitement formed by her day of birth was what kept him going. He knew he'd been acting weird, but in order to keep all of this piled up in his head to himself, he had to keep his distance from her. And with the excuse of last night's argument, he'd been behaving cold and well, stupid so he wouldn't spill out what he wasn't supposed to. It bothered her, though. He could see it in her eyes that the act he kept putting on didn't please her. It wasn't that he thought it would, but he never thought she'd go as far as begging him to hug and kiss her because it didn't. This wasn't something to be happy about, but seeing her so vulnerable and needy made his lips tremble to smile. It was probably the cutest thing she'd ever said to him, and he couldn't just let her go without giving her what she wanted. So he'd kissed her twice and hugged her tight before sending her off to have what he wanted to be the time of her life. Now though, it was time for him to go gift hunting, and he also needed to buy some stuff to set up her room for the surprise. Balloons, of course. A party wasn't a party without such stupid things. Confetti and streamers. LED lights. And he also needed 2 bottles of wine and a birthday cake. That was supposed to be all. Here's to tonight being a success. Quinn had 3 bags in hand, all 3 possessing different items. One had a bunch of clothes, shoes, and jewelry that Marcia forced her to try on. One had new shampoo and body wash along with soap and a bottle of lotion, and the other bag had hair utensils like hairpins and clips, a blow dryer, a flat iron and a hair wax to style her hair when needed. After hours of shopping, they went to a spa where they all got pedicures, manicures, and even a massage. It was nice. Girl time or whatever they called this was nice. Isabella was as talkative and curious as ever, and Rachel wasn't as mean as Dante made her out to be. She didn't talk much, but she talked to Quinn. She gave her opinion about the clothes Quinn tried on, although all she said was that they were pretty. She also asked Quinn about the outfits she chose, which were mostly, if not all, black. Marcia had thrown a couple of colored clothes over her shoulder, even when she complained. Marcia was a darling. Whenever Quinn got too silent, she'd make sure she was okay, and she also tried to make jokes that involved her son and her mate. She made Quinn feel as though she'd known her for a lifetime. Her smile was so contagious, and her bright and bold personality could pull anybody in. This was how Quinn's mother should have treated her, but Quinn didn't even know her real mother, and Catherine, that woman, didn't spare Quinn the amount of motherly love she needed. In just a couple of hours, Marcia seemed to have done much more than she had. She made Quinn smile and laugh multiple times, told her she looked beautiful, and had even hugged her in excitement for absolutely no reason. What a beautiful soul! Quinn felt close to her already. Ever since that day she'd shown up in Quinn's room with the photo album, she reverberated an energy that could grant anyone comfort, and this comfort wasn't one Quinn thought she needed until now. After visiting the spa, they got ice cream. Quinn got the cookie and cream flavor along with Marcia, Isabella got orange pineapple, and Rachel went for chocolate. After that, they'd headed for home because night had cast a shadow over the land. The city lights were pretty, something that Quinn rarely got to view. She also noticed that the streets were more crowded than they had been in the day, werewolves young and old strolling the busy road with hopeful hearts. This was a neutral place, you see, an area that any pack could visit. Fights were prohibited on this land, therefore, there were hardly even quarrels between enemy packs. This place had numerous shops and stores built to accommodate the needs of all werewolves, and also places to have fun as well as to eat. It was like a human sanctuary in a werewolf world. But she didn't visit often. Her prior pack was considered independent. They grew their own food and even sold handmade clothing in the marketplace, and as Luna, she was bound to support her pack. The only time she came here was mostly on missions, and she didn't have the luxury of really exploring the many buildings that occupied this place. It was nice to have gotten the chance to see it now. The incoherent noise that plagued her ears promised her that she was not alone, and the cold breeze that fondled her skin bruised it sweetly. She felt free, but what surprised her was the fact that the feeling of freedom did not leave even when she made it back home. Marcia, Isabella, and Rachel accompanied her to her room for a reason she didn't ask, and as she opened her door, nothing but darkness greeted her. She didn't remember turning off the lights, but it could have been Zade. "I'm sorry, I'll get the lights," she murmured to them. Dropping her bags on the floor, she flicked the switch, staggering back when numerous people shouted out, "Happy birthday!" Her eyes widened in surprise as she looked around, finding Zade grinning in the midst of the room with Dante, Frederick, and Joshua by his side. However, there was one other person in the room, an unexpected guest that she knew all too well. The strands of grey hair that blended in with the black seemed to have increased now, and he was smiling, faintly, looking so happy and yet so sad. When he looked at her with those hopeful brown eyes, Quinn gasped, taking another step back only to collide into Marcia. What was he doing here? What was her father doing here? Her lips wobbled as she tried to ask the question. She was utterly flabbergasted, and despite seeming the same, the old man clapped his hands and started singing. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you." Everybody else around her joined in, and Quinn took the time to look around with her wide green eyes at her room. It was decorated beautifully with forest green balloons that bounced above her bed, and scattered on the white sheet that covered the mattress was black and green confetti. There were streamers streaming down her wall, same black and green theme, and her eyes glanced at the cake in the center of her bed. "So, it is October 7th today? It was this day? Her birthday?" Quinn tried to smile as the song came to an end, but her eyes kept glancing from the green LED lights to her father, who stood beside them. Thank you." Her heart was beating fast, and she could feel her eyes watering. "Father, what are you? How did? Why are you here?" "Sweetheart, Before he could finish, Zade stepped in front. "I allowed him to stay. We decorated the room together, although Larna might have helped." I wasn't sure which other colors you liked, which is why I chose green as the theme, and as for why he's here, he has something to tell you." Quinn harshly swiped her fingers across her eyes, clearing it of the tears before they could fall. "What? How about we enjoy the night first before getting into that? We could cut the cake and drink some wine and then no, I want to hear it, whatever it is Derek has to say." Zade pinched the bridge of his nose with a sigh. "All right, we'll give you guys space, I'm outside if you need me." He walked through the door and everybody else followed, leaving just Quinn and Derek in the room. He looked away from her, swallowing loudly in the silence. "So you haven't ever called me Derek since the day you said your first word, and hearing you say it just now, it makes me feel, it breaks my heart, Quinn." Quinn clenched her jaws. "Why should I call you dad or father when I'm not even sure if we're truly related? You lied to me about Catherine being my mother, who's to say you didn't lie about being my father too?" His eyes flashed towards her then, wide and full of pain. "I never lied to you. I am your father and Catherine, she is your second mother. And who's the first? Who is my real mother, Derek?" "Katrina, she is Catherine's twin sister." Quinn squinted her teary eyes at him. "Twin sister? Catherine's twin sister is my mother. Yes, she and Catherine were both my mates, making her child's also Catherine's and Catherine's child hers. I never lied to you, Quinn, I just never wanted to tell you the whole story of your birth. Tell me, where is my mother now? Why have I never met her?" Derek's lips trembled. "I'm sorry to tell you this, Quinn, but on a night like this, October 7th, your mother died right after giving birth to you." What? Quinn's heart stopped beating for a second, and goosebumps glittered across her arms as the hair on her skin rose. "How? Why did she? I don't understand, let me start from scratch, from the very beginning. I never wanted to tell you, but you need to know. You see," and so, he told her everything, and when the horrible story ended, Quinn fell to her knees on the floor, trembling in what she could only describe as pain. How could her father know all of this and still managed to wish her a happy birthday every year? This day was cursed, it was a day that should never be celebrated. She was born at the expense of her mother's life, she only lived because her mother died, and it was heart-wrenching. So painful that it was hard for her to breathe. Her mother had been just like her, the last days of her life must have been the most sorrowful ones. Without a wolf, she must have felt the same way Quinn did, and it was even sadder that the person who took that part of her away, was the same person who had taken it from Quinn. Catherine! How could that evil woman live on knowing that she'd been the cause of her sister's death? How could she live knowing that she'd betrayed her sister for a man? This all seemed so familiar, after all, Delilah had betrayed Quinn just the same, and... Quinn looked up at her father as he approached her. "That's why when I saw it happening again, when I noticed that you and your sister started to drift apart because of Alpha Geo, I hated it. It was like watching Catherine and Katrina fight all over again, it angered me, and then you lost your wolf and I felt utterly lost too. To watch you suffer in the same way Katrina had tortured me. I didn't want it to be Catherine, anybody else but Catherine, however, denying the truth made your situation worse. I'm sorry, Quinn." Quinn nodded, gripping onto her chest when she felt her heart tangibly breaking. Dad, can you leave? See, can I get the time to process this, to think it through? Please. Derek nodded, ruffling her hair. I'll still be here tomorrow. Happy birthday, honey. And then he walked out of the room. Quinn wiped her eyes, breathing heavily as she looked around the room. The banner hung against the wall that marked Happy Birthday cast her into a sizzling pit of rage, and she stood to her feet just to rip it down. She destroyed the balloons, and while pulling down the streamers, somebody burst through the door, hugging around her trembling body. Stop it, Quinn! A sob climbed up her throat and her hands fell lifeless at her side. Today isn't a happy day, Zade. How could you wish me a happy birthday on an awful day like this? A sob climbed up her throat and her hands fell lifeless at her sides. Today isn't a happy day, Zade. How could you wish me a happy birthday? It might be so, but it's still your birthday, Quinn. How could I not wish for it to be happy? Did you hear it? Did you hear what my father said? I've known since last night when he just came. He told me everything and I then told him to tell you the truth. I'd been curious for a while now, Quinn sniffled. I'd questioned myself about this truth, buried my head in multiple scenarios, but after finally hearing everything, I wish I hadn't been curious. I wish I was still clueless. I honestly wish he hadn't said a word. That's cowardly, but I get it. Knowing the truth made it all the more painful for you, and I understand why. However, you can't keep living behind a lie. It's time for you to face reality, no matter how harsh it may be. I know you're struggling. I know no matter how hard I try to make you happy, you're not. I wanted to make you feel like you belong here, but I doubt you do. It bothers me, Quinn, the fact that you're not happy saddens me as well. So you expect me to be happy today? To grin and drink wine and eat cake as though my mother's life wasn't sacrificed for me to be here? I didn't even get the chance to meet her, Zade. I didn't say that. I meant you have your mother, Zade, and she loves you. I have no mother, and Catherine, who was supposed to be my only shot at actually having a mother, tried to kill me because she thought I was better than her daughter. You're lucky you have a family, a sister that desperately awaits your return whenever you leave, a mother and a father that look out for you, friends and pack members that look up to you, but what do I have? I barely have a family. My whole pack hates me for a reason I don't even know. How am I supposed to be happy? You have me, Quinn. Why can't you let all of that go? Forget about them. Pretend as though that stupid excuse of a pack didn't exist. How will you heal if you keep lamenting? How will you be happy if you don't try? I do try, and sometimes I am. When I'm with you, I'm happy. You're my only escape, but it seems my life has been cursed since birth. Catherine might have poisoned Mom, but I finished her off. I can try being happy any other day, but not today. My mother died years ago today, and 4 years back today was when I found out I'd been mated to Geo. This day, it's curse. I'm cursed. Why not? Why can't you be happy on this day? Her sacrifice will go in vain. She died so you could live. Even if it had been for a second, I bet she'd been happy to have brought a life into the world. I'm sad she died, but I'm happy you were born. It's all thanks to her that I got to meet such a beautiful soul. His arms fell from around her waist, and she turned to face him. And forget about that stupid, his importance has diminished to nothing. Everything about him irritates me, even his name. He will reap what he sowed, karma will give him 100 times more pain than that which he gave you. But on the bright side, if he hadn't been stupid, I wouldn't have gotten the chance to meet you. I'm glad that I have you, after all, your name is Quinn, but I regard you as my queen. But today, no buts, Zade's thumbs gently swiped her cheeks before he palmed them, kissing her forehead. You have a new family now, you're a part of a new pack. Start anew, be happy, smile, for me. Quinn nodded, a small smile taking a stance across her lips. Wider Quinn, a big smile, make it believable. Quinn wanted to frown, to glare, and mostly to deny his words, but they were true. If nobody here was her family, he was, and Marcia too. So, her gawky smile widened and only then did he smile too. That's better, no more crying, you look way prettier when you smile. Thanks, Quinn glanced away from him. Thanks for always being there even when I push you away, thanks for loving me even when I don't have much to offer. Thank you. No need, it's my duty, but if you really wanna thank me, kiss me. Quinn's eyes drifted back towards him, and she grabbed onto his black button-up shirt, tipping upon her toes to peck his lips. Fortunately, he held around her waist before she could pull away, taking more than just a peck from her. His kiss was deep and passionate, but his lips were soft and moist, the ardor in which they moved leaving her breathless when he pulled away. He looked around at the balloons and the streamers floating along the floor. I wanted today to be perfect, but despite all the work I put in, it didn't turn out so. No, it was perfect. I'm sorry about the balloons and the decorations. I was angry, like you said before, let's cut the cake, you did so much for my birthday, I'm sorry for only thinking about myself and ruining it. Forget about that, let me feast on this beauty, you'd taste even better with some icing on you. I don't think so. Oh, but I do. You can cut the cake, I'll eat it for you. Quinn blinked down at the man between her legs, his eyes were dark as he stared down at her, dark and desireful. Her body seemed to be his main focus, her body that was bare of clothes, but covered in icing. She didn't know why, but his eyes held a level of enticement she'd never seen in them before, he was into this, into her. And it made her feel so appealing. Gio had brought her pride down a notch, made her feel insufficient, but Zade blessed her with the knowledge that she was indeed enough. His constant appreciation of her beauty was elevating. A real man he was, one she wanted in her life for life. Grabbing at his collar, she pulled him down towards her, connecting her lips to his. They tasted sweet, those fingers he'd used to mingle with the cake, he'd lick them so sinfully that it made slick pool down her walls. She'd failed to notice it in her state of anger, but his hair was combed differently, slick back perfectly. His hair and stubble was freshly lined too, making him look handsome, like a god, for no man could hold this much perfection. Pulling away from the kiss, she looked him in the eyes. Are you only going to stare? He shook his head. Definitely not, it's more tempting to touch. Stop making me impatient then. I'm all wet, for you. Zade bit his lips, pushing her hand away from his collar. Saying something so hot while looking like that will get you pregnant, Quinn. I already carry your mark, it wouldn't hurt to carry your child too. He chuckled, darkly. Quinn, you, hell. What? You're beautiful, goddess, I could come by just looking at you. Thank you, but don't, I mean, she paused, glancing away from him. You can't come if it's not inside, you said you'd get me pregnant. Zade's chest rumbled lowly, and she looked back towards him, watching as the desire in his eyes darkened to a whole other level. Tonight you're even bold enough to say things like this. Why? Consider it a token of appreciation. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible, I'm trying to tell you how you make me feel. Zade smiled as he buried his face in the crook of her neck. And how exactly do I make you feel? Quinn moaned as he kissed her. Hot, impatient, wet, needy, you make me want to surrender, you make me want you. What else? I don't know, a whimper slipped past her lips when his teeth grazed her mark. You make me, you. Zade, Continue, angel. You make me feel things I've never felt before. That's pretty vague. It's not, you're just too hard to please. I am. Her lips slid between her teeth as she held back her moan. He looks so hot right now, and the way he licked his red lips after did something to her, something that had her wanting him even more. Her body felt as though it was on fire, and she was convulsing in anticipation. She wanted more of him, so much more. Every step of the way, she'd foolishly pushed him away, pinning the blame for everything on him even though he wasn't at fault. It wasn't her intentions, it was probably her way of coping. But she hated hurting him, he loved her too much and she loved him too. She wanted them to be happy, she wanted this to work, and for that to happen she had to stop berating him for absolutely no reason. He'd done a lot for her, been there when nobody else was, loved her when nobody else did. Even when she abandoned herself, he didn't. He hung on to her, and it seemed no matter what, he wouldn't let go. But she couldn't take advantage of that fact. Knowing he wouldn't leave was probably why she thought she could just say anything, and he'd accept it. However, seeing him act so distant today had taught her a lesson. What if one day that happened again and there was nothing she could do to rectify her stupid mistake? What if he got tired of it and left? What if there was no Zade in her life and she was left alone in this world full of vultures? What if? Quinn bit her lip harder as tears filled her eyes, and she flopped back against the bed so he couldn't see it. She could live without anyone else, but not him. She'd grown too accustomed to him being around, if he left now, she'd falter, even more than she did when Gio rejected her. A shiver racked down her spine when his tongue probed between her folds again, slurping up the slick that dripped down her walls. She grabbed onto the sheets, unbelievably tight as heat rolled through her, regulating her desire to its highest point. Her eyes fluttered shut, whimpers that signified her pleasure slipping through her lips even when she tried to prohibit them. Her voice broke as she called out his name, and the water that had filled her eyes dripped down her face as soon as she reopened her eyes. She finally exploded with an incomprehensible cry, one that should have been his name. Her breaths were shaky as she came down from her high, her legs falling almost lifeless on the bed. Zade pulled back, settling above her with a smirk. What's this? Are you crying already and we haven't even started? Quinn shook her head. No, it doesn't matter. He licked the streak of tear, following it to her ear. I'm still going love you, deep, hard. She was too weak to do even that. It hurts, Zade, you said you wanted to carry my child, he groaned, kissing her forehead. Bear it. Did you think I was joking? I'm seriously breeding you tonight, Quinn. Quinn took a deep breath, nodding her head. You're right, I asked for this and I want it. She turned to face the wall across from the bed. I also want to make this official. I want you to introduce me to the pack, as their Luna. She didn't look to see his reaction, it wasn't that she was scared to look, she knew he wanted this, she was just a gasp left her lips when he grabbed her face, twisting it back towards him. Are you saying what I think you are? The mating ceremony. Quinn nodded slowly. Yeah, are you sure? Why? Do you not want that anymore? No, I do. I want that so bad, the more people know that you're mine, the happier I'll be. Then I'm sure. Quinn, you don't know how happy you made me tonight. This is just... A smile slipped across his lips as he leaned down to peck her lips. I'm glad you trust me enough to want that, I'm happy. Quinn smiled back at him. I know, and I'm happy too, but if you don't mind me asking, how much longer must I stay like this with you? For as long as it takes, and how long is that? I'm not answering that. Quinn chuckled as she hugged him to her chest. Why not? Not answering that either. All right, don't answer, I won't force you to. Silence settled between them after that, a relaxing silence, and it didn't break until the knot did. Quinn groaned as he pulled out, and he slid from between her legs, reaching for his pants on the floor. I got you something earlier, for your birthday. She sat up, watching as he dug into the pocket, taking out a small, pink box. He handed it to her, and she took it, looking at it for a while before opening it up. Inside was a necklace, a silver necklace with a wolf pendant on it. She looked up at him, and he took the box from her, shaking it out. Turn around, let me put it on. Quinn did as told, and he put it around her neck, locking it. I know you don't feel like a wolf right now, and so I bought this to remind you that no matter what, you are a wolf, a strong and beautiful silver wolf. She turned back to facing him, her shaky hand reaching for the necklace around her neck to stare at it. Tears filled her eyes as she muttered out. Thank you. And Zade smiled. I hope you'll remember who you are every time you look at this necklace. You are a wolf, Quinn. Quinn nodded. Quinn woke up in Zade's arms, completely engulfed in his warmth. He held her tight, so close that she was practically pinned against his chest. Are you awake? His deep, subtle voice almost made her jump, especially since she was expecting him to still be asleep. She looked up towards him, those beautiful, hazel eyes already staring at her. Yeah, how are you feeling? I'm fine, and you? Oh, I'm finer than ever. Quinn rolled her eyes. Don't tell me you're still on about what I said last night. And why exactly should I not be? I mean you finally agreed to be my Luna. Technically, I agreed the moment I told you that you could mark me. Yeah right, that's a lie and we both know it. It's not. Then why didn't you tell me? I'm sure it was obvious enough. Zade flicked her forehead. If it was then I'd be this happy since then. Not my fault that you're stupid. She slapped the hand that had hit her and sat up. I'm going to take a shower. Alongside her, Zade sat up as well. I'm going to take a shower too. When I'm done. Come on, Quinn, I know you know what I'm suggesting. I do, but is it a problem if I pretend not to? It is. Quinn shrugged as she shuffled off the bed. But it's not my problem, is it? She walked towards the bathroom on legs that felt weak and a body that was bare of clothes. She could feel his cum dripping down her thighs, and the prominent ache in her core made her want to glare back at him. It was all because he nodded her, but then again, it was her fault too. Grabbing onto the knob, she opened the bathroom door, conscious of the fact that Zade was following her. Still, she slammed the door behind her, holding back a chuckle when he caught it before it closed. Disrespectful. He muttered under his breath, and Quinn twisted towards him. What is? He rubbed his eyes, looking totally unbothered, pointing straight at her. You are. You're the one invading my private space, Zade. It's our space, another place. That is, well, straight to the point. You're just gonna say it like that. How else must I say it? His hand fell to his side, and he approached her slowly, but wasn't he? He was a predator about to prey on her body, greedily eat her up like he did last night. The straightforward trait that I have is why you fell for me in the first place. So yeah, I'm going to say it as it is. Quinn stepped backwards, her back hitting the shower glass after just 3 big retreating steps. That wasn't why I liked you, then why, Quinn? His arms reached forward to cage her against the glass walls. Why did you fall for me even though you couldn't feel the mate bond? Quinn came in here expecting X, but she was not expecting him to ask her something like this. Why did she fall for him? Had it been his looks? His voice? The desperate and continuous way in which he pursued her? Or had it been just everything? The words he'd said, the manly way he'd approached her, the way he looked, everything had attracted her, but why must she tell him that? Sliding beneath his arm, Quinn went into the bathroom. I came here to shower, Zade, to relax and not to be tormented. Zade followed her inside silently, drawing so near that Quinn wanted to back away again, but instead she held her grounds. What? It's becoming painful now. What is? When he looked down, Quinn knew exactly what he meant, the veinous shaft that curved slightly against her thigh. It did look painful, painfully hard. Slowly and reluctantly her hand reached forward to wrap loosely around it. It felt thick beneath her palm, felt like a weapon of destruction when in reality it was really a love wand that granted her wishes she didn't even know she had. She stroked it, and Zade leaned down to rest his forehead against hers. Not that, he huskily whispered. Turn around. No, I need to shower first, your cum is still. Before she could finish, Zade twisted the faucet, and she shivered as cold water cascaded from the shower head. And now? Quinn sighed, turning to face the glass and leaning against it. I guess you can do whatever you want. Zade braced against her. I will, she groaned out needily. You prepared me enough last night, just put it in. I will put it in, when you tell me why you fell for me. What aspect of me did you like? Quinn glared back at him, and he smirked. You didn't think I'd just give up on getting the answer, did you? No, but, you're so, Quinn breathed out a shaky breath, hands fisting against the glass. Everything, you were just different, in a good way. You were dominant and yet you were patient and gentle, and you were handsome too, the most handsome man I'd ever seen. Now that's better, little red. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.